The Cars franchise is a special thing to me. I don't know how accurate this is, but Cars 2 is probably the very first movie I ever watched, with Cars 1 following shortly thereafter. The Cars 2 game was the very first video game I ever played, but I never played the Cars 1 game until many years later because a PS3 version was never released for some reason. In 2020, I got the PS2 version off the PlayStation Store, and a few months later I got the Steam version, which is the main version I'll play for this video. The Cars video game was released back in 2006 for pretty much all the major platforms at the time, even spanning across 2 generations: GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2, PlayStation Portable, Game Boy Advance, DS, Wii, Xbox 360, and Steam. Funnily enough, the PS3 didn't get a version of the game, so our only method of playing the game on PS3 would be to get the PS2 version off the PlayStation Store and play that. As stated previously, I played the Steam version for this review, but I also played the PSP, GBA, and DS versions as they're separate from the main version. The Wii and Xbox 360 versions are also different as they both have 3 extra minigames. Technically though, they only got 1 extra, as Mater's Countdown Cleanup and Mater's Speedy Circuit are on the Steam version via a cheat code. Only Ghosting Mater is a true exclusive. The 360, being an HD console, also got higher poly models and higher resolution textures, but unless you're as big a nerd as I, you won't notice. Heck, I prefer the original textures to the 360 ones. But enough of that, let's get on with the game. We start in Radiator Springs as Lightning races through the town with his friends. Let's start with the graphics. As a 2006 movie tie-in game, we can't expect anything too spectacular. I can name a few games from the time that look better off the bat, but for what it is, the graphics are just fine. Models are high poly, and the textures hold up well, mainly the ones in the cars themselves. The draw distance could use some work, but it's serviceable. However, the texture for the map itself as well as the buildings really aren't that great. Look at any of the buildings past Luigi's or Ramon's, they just look so low budget, like they came out of Sonic Adventure. The textures for the ground, the road, the dirt, it all looks so lifeless and pale and boring. Visually, this game has held up well in some parts, but overall, it's showing its age. To get to the actual gameplay, the game controls are fine for the most part. The game certainly feels a bit looser than its sequels, but I can live with it. The controls are also different, and will definitely take some time getting used to. Accelerate on A, power slide on right bumper, and boost on right trigger are all you need for this game. The physics, however, are an interesting story. This game was developed by Rainbow Studios, a subsidiary of THQ, the publishers of this game. They've made a few games in their time, including Star Wars Race to Revenge, and more to the point, MX vs ATV. MX vs ATV is an off-road racer, and the physics engine used for those games was also used for cars, and as such, the game certainly has its jank when running up to a wall at high speeds, jumping off a ramp, or landing from a high place. Physics that will work well in a game like MX vs ATV kinda don't work well here, and as stated previously, it leads to jank. However, I kinda can't blame Rainbow Studios for this much. It's a movie tie-in game, it probably wasn't given the biggest budget, so creating a brand new engine most likely was not in the cards, and it would have been easier on nearly all fronts to just use the one they've already made. Back to the story, Lightning finishes the race and is revealed to just be a dream. Sally wakes him up and he goes to Flo's to meet with some people who want to race with him. To talk about the game's cutscenes, while they certainly aren't as good as the movie, they're serviceable. Nothing mind-blowing, but they get the point across as well as they can. Interestingly enough, the movie's full voice cast has been brought back for this game. Owen Wilson as Lightning, Larry the Cable Guy as Mater, Michael Keaton as Chick Hicks, Paul Newman as Doc. They're all here. This is really cool because, at least to my knowledge, most movie tie-ins don't have the full voice cast come back. Usually it's only for a lead character, but not everyone else. To get between activities, you go through Radiator Springs as an open world. And I've gotta say, this was more expansive than I thought it would be. Sure, there's not much to collect to incentivize or warrant an open world this big, but it's certainly cool and it explains how all the racetracks and all these places connect. You've got the main road in Radiator Springs, and to its east you've got Ornament Valley with the train tracks and the Rust Bucket Race-O-Rama. To Radiator Springs west, you've got Tailfin Pass with the Wheelwell Motel, the Mine Shaft, and the Waterfall. A little way to Willie's Butte east, you've got a tiny canyon area with the most intense platforming in this game. Again, it's an open world, and it's baffling as to why the world itself was changed from International. Heck, to my memory, the world was made smaller, and it just makes the canon of the Cars universe confusing. But this is a problem with Main International, and not the first game, so let's get back on track. There are also some collectibles in the form of Lizzie's postcards. They hardly do anything, and all you get is a trophy for each one you get, but it's a neat thing that wasn't needed yet still added. It also incentivizes you to go out and explore the open world, and were it not for these postcards, there are a few places I most certainly would not have seen. However, searching for these collectibles without any clue as to where to go is certainly not my thing, so I saved it for last and just used a guide instead of actually looking for them. I guarantee you, if I tried to look for them myself, I would add an extra 2 hours to my playtime, and I would absolutely hate these postcards. Trophies are the main progression tracker in this game. To obtain a trophy and move on with the story, you need to place at least 3rd in a race, assuming the race has at least 5 participants. The higher your placement, the more trophies you get, with a maximum of 250 trophies if you do everything the game has to offer. Getting 3rd place is trivially easy, and getting 1st is not hard at all. I play the game on hard mode, which, interestingly enough, is a secret. Only by inputting champion, without an A, as your file name will you unlock hard mode, and that save file will be locked to hard mode. Regardless, the AI isn't enough of a challenge for this to really matter. It'll be next to you for the first 30 seconds of the race, maybe the first lap, and they'll be eating your dust for the remainder of the race. But, to be fair, I'm a teenager, I've got a lot more experience under my belt than most of this game's intended audience. Not relevant experience, mind you, but, experience. Despite what you may initially believe, this game doesn't contain only races. It also contains a few minigames. The best and most notable minigame is tractor tipping. You move with the analog stick and honk with A. This minigame leads more towards the puzzle side, as you gotta figure out where you gotta go to get to the tractor while avoiding the searchlights. Oh, by the way, Frank is chasing you the whole time, no big deal. Luigi to the Rescue is another minigame where Luigi finds tires laying on the ground across the open world. I really like this one, as not only do you have to find and explore to find the tires with your minimap as a good guide, you've also got a time limit, so you've gotta be quick. When you reach level 6, a good strategy is to have 2 attempts per level. One to familiarize yourself with the tire placement, and another to actually find them in a timely manner since you already know where they all are. Sheriff's Hot Pursuit is another good one. You play a sheriff chasing after 3 cars. Originally, I thought this was going to be a game of tag, chase the car and then bump into them. But no, you've got to find a car and then stay on the tear for a solid minute. That car would no longer be a target, and then you move on to the other remaining cars. It's nothing special, but a good one. Sergeant's Boot Camp is easily my favorite minigame. I know I said something similar to tractor tipping, but tractor tipping is probably the most well made. Sergeant's Boot Camp is my favorite. It's an obstacle course where you've got to jump over hurdles and avoid obstacles. You also got a time limit on you, 4 minutes for levels 1 and 2, and 4 minutes and 15 seconds for level 3. Now that I'm actually writing about it, this minigame is more like a Sonic level. No wonder I like it so much. The final standalone minigame is Mayor's Countdown Cleanup. Scattered around Radiator Springs are 100 bits of trash, and you've got 30 seconds to collect them. This sounds daunting, but it's actually pretty easy. In this minigame, most of Radiator Springs is blocked off, with Telfin Pass and Ornament Valley completely inaccessible, with only the main town being accessible. As such, all the bits of trash are pretty close together. To add to this, for every bit of trash you collect, time gets added to the timer, either 3 seconds or 5 seconds. You start with 30 seconds, but by the time you collect around 60 pieces of trash, you've got 2 minutes on the timer. The final bit of gameplay is the Piston Cup races. At the end of each chapter, of which there are 5, you have a Piston Cup race to complete. Place 3rd in the race, and you move on to the next chapter. These races are pretty different from the normal road races, as you drive in a massive oval for 12 straight laps. Boosting and power sliding are also disabled for these races, which makes sense. However, this does mean taking corners is a lot harder than normal. You can either take a really wide turn and risk crashing into the wall, or you can use a tilt maneuver, which is never useful, to attempt to make a sharp turn, which is what I do. These races also have their own exclusive minigame, Guido's Pit Stop Challenge. It's basically QT. Button prompts appear, hit the buttons quickly. Overall, I like these races, but they are easily the lowest part of the game. Now, it's time to talk about the Steam port and its quality. And by the Allspark, this port sucks. Again, serviceable, it runs well enough, but most certainly there are some issues. Mainly, you're never shown the correct button prompts, which makes something like Pit Stop Challenge a real pain. Instead of getting shown X input prompts, like, where actual buttons are shown, you see D input prompts, where you see numbers instead of the actual buttons. Nobody knows what button 1 or button 8 is, and unfortunately, you need to learn if you want to play this game. Animated textures are really sucky, mainly in cutscenes. They just continue to flicker and it's really distracting. Weirdly enough, this is a port of the original Xbox version. You can tell because the manual shows the Duke when discussing controls. Why is this not a port of the 360 version? The best one? And do not tell me this was a hardware issue. You most certainly could have scaled things down if need be. Furthermore, this would only be an issue for like a few years. By the early 2010s, most gaming computers could run PC ports of 360 games no problem. This was just laziness. The final thing I have to discuss would be the extras, costumes, and cheat codes. There are 9 cheat codes, only 7 of which work on PC. 1 to unlock all concept art, faster speed, unlock all races, unlock all paint jobs, unlock Mater's 360 extras, unlimited boosting, unlock all movie clips, unlock all characters, and unlock everything. The cheat codes for unlocking paint jobs and all characters doesn't work on PC for some reason. Also, literally all of the watchable extras, like deleted scenes, movie clips, and trailers, are just broken on PC. You get a black screen and you're booted back to the menu. The game also has a store. You may notice that you get points throughout the game, and these points can be spent to unlock extra cars, extra paint jobs, concept art, and watchable extras. I don't have any footage of me buying stuff though, because I don't have enough points for everything, and I didn't feel like spending a solid 24 hours to grind for enough points, so I just used a cheat code to unlock everything. And that's about all I have to say on the Steam version of Cars. It's a fine game, I'd play it again, but it's nothing special, and if you haven't played it, you're not missing out on much. But the fun part is, we're only, 50 to 70% done with this video. You see, the main console version wasn't the only version to release. We've also got the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation Portable, and DS versions, and since I have nothing better to do, I want to talk about those versions too. Next up is the Game Boy Advance version. Immediately, I have to say that the pixel art is incredible. It's some of the best pixel art I have ever seen, up there with Super Mario World and the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters. The story is one-to-one with the console version, just presented with static images and text. The gameplay is interesting as it's presented isometrically. It's angled at a top-down view, but this makes seeing upcoming turns a real pain. Thankfully, there are 2 ways to alleviate this. The game will show pop-ups that tell you the turn that's about to come up, and you can press the L button to show a tiny map in the middle of the screen. Overall, this version is just fine, a 5 out of 10, great art, fine gameplay, fine cinematics, and a non-existent soundtrack. And next up, the PlayStation Portable version. This is easily the most similar to the console version. The soundtrack is identical, the graphics are very similar, but the tracks are all new, and there isn't much of a story mode. The tuners want to cause a bit of trouble, and then you go race your friends. That's all. Also, fun fact, Lizzie races in this version, which really shouldn't be possible. She's like 60 to 70 years old. How is she racing? Finally, the DS version. The DS version is just a glorified minigame collection, and not a very good one. First, you have Snot Rod's minigame. Use the touchscreen to avoid oncoming traffic and stay out of the way of your fellow tuners. It's simple but boring. Nothing to it. Next is Flows. Customers come in, and to appease them, you rub them with the touchscreen. This was the only one I played to completion, not because it's fun, but because it's really funny. Finally, you have Fillmore's minigame. Plying off a line in the movie, Fillmore and Sarge are looking at a stoplight. The stoplight will make a pattern, and you've got to repeat it. Simply put, a memorization minigame, which is certainly not my forte. Then, there's an actual race that's hidden away in the background of the main menu. Lightning and Chick race each other in the piston cup, and you've got to alternate between accelerating and braking to build up the blue bar at the bottom. The length of that bar dictates how long you can accelerate. By the halfway point, you'll make a pit stop. Using the touchscreen, tap the lug nuts so the Guido can remove them. And that's about all I have to say on Cars the video game and its different versions. If you want to know my final verdict on all these games, here they are. The console version is easily the best, with the most content and the best controls. The 360 version specifically is the best, with the best graphics and an extra minigame. The Game Boy Advance version is serviceable if you didn't have any other console back in the day. Incredible sprite work, but mediocre gameplay at best. There's not much reason to come back to it. The PlayStation Portable version is actually kinda good. It's pretty close to the console version, and if you're bored of the console version, this is a worthy substitute. The DS version is easily the worst, but if you're a fan of tiny minigames like these, I'd see why you like it. I personally, however, don't. And that's all. This is my first review, so I'd like some feedback on what you thought I did well and what I could improve on. I hope to get the next video on Cars International Championship out by next week, so for now, I'll catch you next time.